Okay, we want to welcome everybody once again to this program with the theme, Nigeria's Future at Stake, the Need for Youth Introspection, Orientation, and Empowerment in the Fight Against Corruption today. We want to quickly introduce, of course, some of our guests that are here already. I want to believe Nigeria is going to become a better nation if people start keeping to time. And we appreciate you all for coming here. First of all, I would like to introduce to us, she is the Commissioner for Youth Empowerment and Engagement in the state of Osun. Most people refer to her with just two names, but I like to call all her three names. We've been very close for a long time right now. Sometimes my colleagues in the office, when I tell them I want to go and see Madam, they say, you and this woman self. You know, that is how, how much she has been able to give her time to let people hear and know the right things to do. And I'm quite happy to also have her here again today. When Topper told me she'll be coming, I'm quite glad. Please, let's join our hands together as I introduce to us Mrs. Mofolake Adeboyega. Please put your hands together for her. Thank you, madam, for coming. Okay, I'm going to allow Ayomide, my friend here, to introduce the next person to us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here present with us, we also have Commissioner for ICPC. We have Mr. Baba Alaro Shuai. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'm told is the Commissioner in charge of some southwestern states in Nigeria. Thank you, sir. And also, I have the honor to introduce to us as well our chief speaker for today, Professor Mrs. Okorojuju Fubara. Please put your hands together. Some students here from a particular school, Foyechem International School, the students of Foyechem International School. Can we please put our hands together for them? All right, thank you also for coming to this program today. Also, we have a representative from the Ministry of Women, Child and Social Affairs, Mr. Rahim Nassim Ajani. Please put your hands together for him as well. Thank you so very much, sir, for coming to the program today. Okay. Okay. Without wasting time, let me quickly invite the ACG president. That's Ms. Temitope Lawal to come in for the welcome speech. Temitope Lawal is also is a core member. I don't know. I used to see her in my office, but she'll walk into my office and just go. I don't know. Until she just came up one day and said, I want to have a program. I said, oh, really? So you talk? I didn't know she used to talk. Well, please welcome Tope here today.
Good morning and welcome to this one-day public lecture titled Nigerian Future at Stake, the Need for Youth Introspection, Orientation and Empowerment in the Fight Against Corruption. I would like to extend my warm welcome to our guest speakers, Professor M.T. Okorojuju Fubara, Professor of Business Law, Department of Law, Obafemi Awolowo University. Also, I would like to welcome Mrs. Mofolake Adeboyega, Commissioner of Empowerment and Youth Engagement. I would also like to welcome Mr. Baba Alaro Shuai, Commissioner of ICPC. We are all privileged to have you here to inspire us with your strong activism on human rights, youth empowerment, and anti-corruption. I would also like to welcome the #1 call member in Osun State in absentia, our state coordinator, Mr. D. Atta, distinguished guests, call members, students, and everybody present. By way of digression, please permit me to give a short introduction of Anti-Corruption Group. Community Development Service is one of the 4 cardinal points of the NYSC. The Anti-Corruption Group aims at creating awareness on corruption, its effects on economic growth and development, thus national building, how we can become an agent of anti-corruption. Corruption is one of the biggest global issues ahead of extreme poverty, unemployment, rising cost of food and energy, climate change, and terrorism. It is thought to be one of the principal causes of poverty. Let me, however, say that the main objective of this lecture is to sensitize call members, students, and youth at large on how personal value addition, self-identification, integrity can help in the fight against corruption. Corruption has embedded its roots into Nigeria. For a country at 58 cannot sustain itself. Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in Africa with youth of about 33 million. It is high time we, the youth, take charge and make a difference. Our future has started, and whatever action we take will be the foundation for the next generation. To fight against corruption, we must know our basic rights and responsibility. I, pledge to continue to do my part to fight corruption and promote self-realization, integrity, honesty, patriotism, hard work, accountability within and outside my society. I ask you all to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tokwe. Can we please put our hands together for her one more time? Okay. Well, I want to believe that what we're doing here today is very much in the right direction as far as Nigeria is concerned. You know, when you're looking at the country at 58, I was speaking on my live show on television this morning. The question I asked my guest was, when you see a 58-year-old man or woman in Nigeria, they're probably going to be a grandma or a grandpapa at 58. But when you look at the way Nigeria is moving, the pace at which because you can just note them and we'll take them up after that so that we will have enough time for ourselves right after the guest, our very special guest speaker today. So I would like to invite our first speaker today, the commissioner from the ICPC, Mr. Baba Alaro Shuai. Please put your hands together.
this morning. In our conclusion, she says she pledged, because she has made a pledge that she will also fight corruption. That's a very good point. And I will believe that all of us here today will also join her in doing the same thing. Our MC said that corruption has eat deep into Nigeria heart. That is just the truth. Until we are able to reduce this thing, Nigeria cannot grow. No matter the type of business you started, if you have the money, that anytime I went for presentation at NYSC camp, I used to tell them that without this corruption, there's nothing we can do. This country cannot grow, we cannot move forward. I read something about Finland. Finland is a country. It's one of the countries that the government said that they don't need prison again because there's nobody to go to the prison. You can see the level, they are able to reduce corruption. Now, the topic today is the role of the youth in the fight against corruption. Role of the youth in the fight against corruption. What do we expect you to do in the fight against corruption? You see, ICPC, EFCC, Code of Conduct, put together, we are not up to 5,000 in time of population. Like ICPC, we are just, our staff strength is around 1,000 plus. And Nigeria population is, some people put it at 170, some say 180. We don't even know which one to believe. But no matter how, the two figures, if you rely on one of them, you can see that our population, our staff strength in the fight, those people that are assigned to fight corruption, our staff strength is too small compared with our population. Now, that is why we are trying to enjoin you, the youth, to also participate, also join in the fight against corruption. There is the anti-corruption anthem. Maybe you people doesn't know it. We used to sing it anywhere we go. That I have decided to stop corruption. I have decided to stop corruption. I have decided to stop corruption. No turning back, no turning back. That is a flag also. Now, let us define corruption. In this paper of mine, corruption is defined as immoral or illegal behavior. Any behavior that you see that is contrary to the rules and regulations of any society, that is corruption. You know, corruption is different from one country to another. In some country, what you term as corruption, there may not be the same thing with what others see as a corruption. Like in some advanced country, prostitution is allowed, but in Nigeria, prostitution is not allowed. It's corruption. Even this gay marriage, some countries allow it, but we don't allow it in Nigeria. You see, corruption doesn't mean money alone. Corruption goes beyond issue of money. Money is part of it, but corruption goes beyond that. Any behavior, any illegal act, that society where you live in prohibit it, that is corruption. Now, let's talk about the causes of corruption, because I don't want to go into the definition of corruption. Everybody, no matter how you define corruption, you are still right. That's why I don't want to bother ourselves with that. Now, causes of corruption. There are several reasons why corruption can thrive in society, and this includes greed. Yes, greed. If you are the type of person that is greedy, it will lead you to corruption. Because when the little one you are giving is not enough, you see corruption. Those people that are involved themselves in corruption, in the act of corruption, they are not poor. They are not the poor people. You see a salary earner, still involve himself in the act of corruption. All these are so-called leaders. They are very rich. But you see them, they still involved in the act of corruption. That's why the little they have is not even enough for them. When we talk about system lapses, that is, you can see Nigeria, our system, our way of doing things. Not that we don't have the constitution. We have the constitution. We have everything. We have rule and regulation that guide us. But there are some loopholes in our constitution, and these are the loopholes people use in order to involve themselves in the corruption. You see, in ICPC we do something we call system study. We have a dedicated department that is called PRR, Planning, Research and Review Department. They go into organization, they will review their law and regulation that lead to corruption. The chairman of our HATU in civil defense know what I'm saying. And I think we have HATU in these universities too, where HATU is Anti-Corruption Transparency Monitoring Unit, is the baby of ICPC in Federal Ministry for starters. They also carry out this system study. They look into the system, the way organization operates. When they see some loopholes in that rules and regulations of doing business, they try as much as possible to block the system. Now, disrupted societal value, we all know it. Nigeria, African value has been disrupted. We all believe in civilized world, the way they are doing their things, but we have our own peculiar way of doing things, but we don't do it again. All these things, in the olden days, when you bring in new things, the family will ask you, where do you get these things? I think my professor knows those things now, because I'm still young then. They will ask you, even it's your parents that will even expose you first, but this day, even the student, the secondary school students are feeding their parents now. Anything they brought home, they accept it. But in those days, you can't bring new things. If you just join a public service, you see somebody that joined a public service today. In the next few days, he started riding a car, building houses. But in those days, the society will not allow it. They will disown you. They will disown that person. But these days, we celebrate those people. And those are the things. It's because of the civilization. Because everybody wants to get rich. Lack of political will. Yes. Our leaders, they are not really fighting. They are not supporting the fight against corruption. That's just it. They are just saying it by mouth. They don't support it. Because they lack political will. Now, poor remuneration of employees, that's another factor. That's another causes of corruption. People are not paid. The salary is small, but where they pay, with the little salary people are getting, they still pay them half salary, all those things. And you expect those people, they have their own family too. You expect them not to, when money pass their table, you expect them not to take it. And lastly, there are some other factors, but those one we identify as a factor, yes. Now, lack of genuine fear of God. Are we truly fear God? Nigeria, we don't fear God. We don't fear God. Can't you see? You see Christian, Muslim, we always believe that we are man and women of God. Truly. And all the corruption that takes place in this country, it involves Christian and Muslim. It involves them. When they want to share Nigeria wealth, they join together. And you still have other way to divide us. Now they will be telling you, this is a Muslim, this is a Christian. No, don't you see, but by the time, during the time they want to share the money, they want to share the wealth of this country, you see them join together. We don't have genuine fear of God. If we would truly fear God, we will not take public money. Because one thing is that the two books that we follow, the Quran and the Bible, there's nowhere in those books that say steal public money, God will forgive you. There's nowhere. Or is there anybody that can tell me where God said that we should steal in those books? There's nowhere. Even the traditional religion doesn't allow it. And one thing I used to tell people, because we used to organize workshop for religion. We gather the two bodies together. We discuss with them. One thing I used to tell them, please, if you steal, where do you find your home? That if you steal public money, and use that public money to do good things in life, that God will forgive you. That maybe you use the public money that you stole to build mosques, to build churches, to start a foundation, that God will forgive you. God will never forgive you until you return the money and have forgiveness from the people you stole the money from. That is when God will forgive you. Because it's public money. Money meant for maybe money meant for construction of road, for hospital, for schools, and you stole the money. God will never forgive you. Because on that road that you refuse to construct, you embezzle the money meant for the road construction. If accident occurred on that road and people die, it will be on your neck that you have killed people. Many people will say they've never killed before. All the money meant for hospital, to buy drugs, to build hospital, or for school, you embezzle those money and you say God will forgive you. God will never forgive you until you have forgiveness from people and return the money. Effect of corruption, we know it. We all know effect of corruption, unemployment, bad road, no good water to drink, electricity is poor, all those things. We are not developed as a nation. Nigeria is 58 years to 10 years ago. And see where we are. 58 years. And see where we are. The money people have embezzled in this country, is even enough for us to be like, to develop as a nation. And you see people are still embezzling the money. People are still, despite government measures, people are still doing it. What is ICPC solution? ICPC was established in 2000 by the former President Osogbo Local. It was inaugurated on 29 September 2000, and the enabling law, this is our law, this is our bylaw, this is our law, this is our heart. The corrupt practices and other related offences are 2000. This is what the act is called. The corrupt practices and other related offences are 2000, was signed into law on 13 June, the same year, that is 2000. We have 3 mandates, summarized in 3 mandates. We have enforcement mandate. That is, when we receive petition from a member of public, we investigate that petition. You see, one thing about the ICPC, when we receive a petition from president, that person may not even know that we are investigating maybe for a month. In a month, he may not even know. He may not even know. We don't go to newspaper to make noise. We don't do that. Even our heart prohibits us to go to the newspaper to make it until the case gets to court. When we now see fact in the petition written to us, we now invite the person, we interrogate him or her. We now take the court to court. The other one is prevention. ICPC have mandate to prevent corruption, and we have been doing a lot in that regard. A lot of things. It's because of the time. A lot of things we have been doing that. We have been doing. Part of the preventive measure is the hard to. What we are doing today is part of the preventive measure that corruption do not take place. You see, corruption is, in fact, is not easy corruption cases is not easy to prosecute because it involves a lot of money. Worldwide today, they believe in preventing corruption because they don't want to send people to jail. Even the money involved. Many of you may even remember the Ibori case. Billions of naira was used to prosecute Ibori in UK. Billions of dollars was used to prosecute him. You see, corruption is not easy. It involves a lot of things. And these are our people. If you are trying to prosecute them, they have money. They can employ SAN to defend their case. No, another one is public education and mobilization. Part of the mobilization is this, our CDS group, the ICPC NYSC CDS group, to mobilize the youth, to mobilize Nigeria in the fight against corruption. We have what we call National Anti-Corruption Coalition. That is an umbrella too for interested NGO or civil society to partner with ICPC in the fight against corruption. Now, because of the time, how can the youth join the fight against corruption? One of the ways is through demand for accountability. Anyone you find yourself as a youth, demand for accountability. When you see something that is wrong, try to correct it. Demand for accountability anywhere you find yourself. Report incident of corrupt practices. Anywhere you witness corruption taking place, report it. There's a way of reporting. There's a way you can report cases of corruption that will not even involve you. You may not even, when you write a petition this day, you may not even put your name. Just write it, you send it to our office. Type it, send it to our office. We investigate it. You don't need to even put your name, to even put your address. And we have some toll-free lines too that you can even call 24 hours. You can call them and they will answer you. You can send email to our chairman that this is what is happening in so area. Some copper have been writing that. The copper came to our office yesterday. He sent a petition to us. And we call him, we call her for interrogation. Those are the things we expect from the youth. Unless you endanger yourself. But when you report cases of corruption, you don't even need to see staff of ICPC to do that. You can even send it through courier, but let your fact have the real fact in it. Educate others. Those people that are not here, your friends, your family, try to educate them that this corruption is not good. There was a time in Abuja. In fact, I delivered a paper in one secondary school in Abuja. And it happened that maybe about the following year, I still went back to that school to deliver a paper. Now, they brought one small boy that his father follow him to school to complain that the way what they are telling their children is not good. And what was the child did? He asked his parents, his Baba, that my daddy, how much is your salary to get all these things? And the shameless father still went to the school to complain that you have 2 cars, you have houses, and how much is your salary? You see, it has come to a level where our children will be asking us, and what answer will you even provide them? Will you be the same person, will you be of the same man that took his child to school to ask the school principal what they are teaching their students, their children is bad? Participate in advocacy visit. Refuse to participate in corrupt practices. Refuse to participate in it. Don't do it. And report. You see, let me tell you something. Failure to report corrupt practices is an offense. Maybe when you are in an office and corruption is taking place in your presence, in your office, and you didn't report. By the time they started investigation and they find out that you are in that office and you know about it and you didn't report, you will be prosecuted also. That is why you have to, if you want this country to move forward, we have to report. You see, our core member, very soon, some of them will pass out, some of them will join. Some will be in the camp, and they are joining the labor market. The labor market is increasing every day, and there's no job. Do the right thing on the social media. You see, many of us, we use our social media for different things. But with your social media, you can do a lot of things, educate people around you, send meaningful things. Be diligent and hardworking, and disciplined and motivated. Now, conclusion. The essence of this lecture is to encourage and motivate you to take ownership of the fight against corruption. It hope you have seen what you can do to help in the fight against corruption. As you do this thing, the fight against corruption can be won, no matter how small it is. You have tried your own, because one of these days, the day is coming when we will close our eyes. That day, the question is, we start in the grave. There's nothing we can do. God will ask us, what is your own contribution? It took a person, one person at a time, one locality at a time. Do not be discouraged. It took a long time for corruption to become a strength in our society. It may take a longer time for it to be eradicated. You see, corruption has been with us before independence, and it's increasing to the level we find ourselves today. And that is why we don't have to be discouraged. Anywhere you see, when you wake up in the morning, pray for your country. America, they will pray for their country. They do pray for their country. You too, let us cultivate that habit. When you are praying for yourself, remember to pray for Nigeria, because we don't have another country. You see, I used to tell people that by the time this our generation goes, the incoming generation, if we don't do the right thing, they will start causing us. Some of us have started causing our own, the older generation. But when those people also come, they will also cause us. But with dedication and selflessness, we will make it. Indeed, Nigeria is ours, and Nigeria will serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Can you please put your hands together for him one more time? Okay. The Honorable Commissioner Shoaib from ICPC, I'm aware that you have to leave right now for another meeting, but I want you to just take you just on one question before you go, sir. You said some things that need to be done about corruption, that the best way is actually prevention. My question is, do you make this your ideas? Do you sell them to the government of the day? And even if you do, have you seen them act on the things you do? Because you have said so many very beautiful things. You talked about Netherlands and Finland, who says they are prisons, they don't want to use them again. Maybe they can even, on the light hand, maybe we can hire those prisons and go and put some Nigerians there. Because there are so many corrupt people here. But on the things you do in ICPC, do you, make them as advice to the government? And if you do they act on the things you do? Because the ICPC, the EFCC, all we hear is that you run after those people and they will go and hire SAN, and eventually they will beat you to it in court. So how well do you think the government is working towards the idea itself?
Thank you.
Just have a second. Okay, you want to take it first. Thank you very much, our speaker, Baba Alaro Shuai, the commissioner with the ICPC. You know, it's, I don't know, I look a bit dumbfounded right now for some of these things that when it's done, they are not being enforced. Well, maybe when Mrs. Mofolake Adewega becomes a minister in the Federal Republic and she joins at the FEC meeting, she will be able to put it forward to the president that time. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Because I know she's somebody who is very staunch about that particular idea as well. That sometimes when you think about the things you read on the newspapers and the media every now and then on corruption cases, you want to run mad sometimes when you hear those things. And it's rather unfortunate that a whole ICPC have just a little over 1,000 staff in this country that we don't even know how many we are. I think we need divine help if you have to look at it. Okay, before we move on to invite our next speaker, let me quickly introduce to us the Assistant Director, Deployment and Relocation at the NYSC, representing the State Director, Mrs. Abiodun Oho. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Okay, I'm going to allow Ayo here to take the next theme on the agenda.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before the second speaker will be mounting the lectern, I would like to read our citation. Please let us listen attentively. Please, ma'am. I know the honors by rising. I want to read your citation as well. Mrs. Folake Adito Adegboyega is currently the Honorable Speaker, Honorable Commissioner, for Empowerment and Youth Engagement, and was former Honorable Commissioner in charge of Women and Children Affairs in the state of Osogbo from August 2011 to November 2014. Mrs. Folake Adito Adegboyega has over 29 years of professional experience in social security policy, education, development and integration of vulnerable persons in state economy. She is a graduate of the University of Ilorin in 1986 with postgraduate diploma in education in 1990 and a master's degree in public administration in 1994 from the University of Lagos. In her working career, Mrs. Adegboyega has held various positions in consultancy services for employee welfare, human resource management, citizens enlightenment, skill acquisition for youth, counseling and mobilization of people for good governance. Mrs. Folake Adito Adegboyega has handled several projects with her team as follows. Overseas Youth Empowerment Scheme in the state of Osogbo, called OYES as Osogbo Youth Empowerment Scheme. Currently the chairman of the Board of National Youth Service Corps in the state of Osogbo, seeking the welfare of core members posted to the state. Partner with various non-governmental and governmental organizations in empowering youth in the state. Collaborate with the Federal Ministry of Youth on matters bordering on youth. Integrate youth into government planned programs targeted at youth. Encourage and maintain viable youth parliament and state youth council. Distributed aids and supported periodically vulnerable children, especially those in various orphanage homes with grants. Proprietor of Playpen Nursery and Primary School, Osogbo, Lagos State. Ladies and gentlemen, moving over to the lectern, please jump your hands together for Mrs. Osogbo Local.
Good morning, everyone. I can't hear you. Good morning, everyone. I hope we are not feeling sleepy. I'm not going to bore you, please. Professor Fubara has told me that she has to run. So I will not bore you much. I'm going to cut a lot of things. Yes, I'm delighted to be here. And I want to really appreciate the organizers of this program. Indeed, Nigeria's future is at stake. And I want to thank you for being so aware. I think every core member here should give themselves a round of applause. You are not children any longer. Do we have parents here amongst you? So you know that there's so much that is at stake. And I want to believe that it's not just going to be prayers, as the MC said. We have to do something about it. It's not enough for us to pray. You know, we should do something. We should be determined to do something. So I want to acknowledge the distinguished ladies and gentlemen here. Professor Okorodudu Fubara, thank you for coming, and I am looking forward to listening to you. I know with you is in your company is Professor Daramola, the Deputy Chair for Ethics and Compliance Units, OAU. Welcome, sir. I also want to acknowledge, in absentia, the man from ICPC that spoke with us earlier on. I've taken away a lot of things that he said, and I know that I will also call him. I want to acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Abiodun, who is representing the state coordinator, the number one youth corps in the state of Osun. I also recognize Mr. Oyewole. I hope Mr. From NSC, Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, is it Mr. Oyewole? Mr. Odeyemi, I'm so sorry. Yes, you're welcome, sir. And of course, Mr. Rahim Ajani, from representing my colleague. Welcome. I also welcome everyone seated here, particularly the MC. We are always meeting, and many more distinguished ladies and gentlemen seated here. Like I said earlier on, Nigeria's future is at stake, and we all have to, this is the time for us to work together to ensure that we have a country called Nigeria, you know, from going forward. I've been asked to talk about, looking at the topic you have there, the need for youth introspection, orientation and empowerment in the fight against corruption. So I have to talk about self-identification, personal value addition, and entrepreneurship, panacea for youth unemployment and nation building. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. How many of you here were forced to read the particular course you graduated from? How many of you here? Among the core members, I know that for adults, probably that's the case. But the core members here, you are shy? I saw your hand up. What would you have read in university? What course would you have studied? Microbiology. Oh, you did you studied microbiology? No. What did you do then? Okay, it's very close. Any other person? Yes. What about you? You studied accounting? You wanted to do that. But what did you end up with? Sociology. Okay, maybe Marx or something. Is that the problem? Or your parents said you should just go into the uni? Well, whatever it is, I know that you probably have some skills that you're going to use to upgrade whatever you have learned. This morning, I want us to look at certain things. I know that as far back as 1975, one notable scholar had remarked that there were 33 million unemployed and 250 million underemployed persons in the developing countries of the world, excluding China. If you know China, even 3-year-olds are employed. They learn to do, fix buttons, put beads, and so on. So there's no one that can complain that they are not employed in China with the huge population. The percentage of the unemployed was said to be greater in urban centers than the rural areas, and that both figures were highest for Africa, with 10 million unemployed and 53 million underemployed. By 1982, available records revealed that there were 76.2 million underemployed persons in tropical Africa. I'm going through this so that you just have an idea that there are statistics too to this. So we're not just picking things. We have every reason to be worried and to discuss certain things. Currently, there are not less than 1.8 billion young people in the world. Not less. There may be more. There surely will be more, which is said to be the largest youth population ever. In Nigeria, about half of the nearly 200 million people are between the ages of 15 and 30 years. The population figure was estimated to increase by 8 times over the next 3 decades. This certainly calls for urgent attention. Speaking recently at the function, Mr. Ebrima Farr, the Senior Director, Nigeria Country Office of the African Development Bank, AFDB, stated that 77.55 million out of the 85.08 million labor force in Nigeria are engaged in some sort of economic activity. This leaves out 7.53 million people doing absolutely nothing. That's about 10% doing nothing. So if you look at the speech, somebody once said, devil finds work for an idle hand. It appears therefore that the Nigerian nation is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So little wonder then that you have a lot of gangsters, you have a lot of drug addicts, barons, prostitutes, and so many things. Some even in politics, dropouts, criminals, and army of unemployed people in many of our urban centers. A student of population and development opined that education in developing countries restricts children's initiative, and this stunts the entrepreneurial spirit, or at least discourages them from taking up self-employment, which might in turn create jobs for others. Our education must be functional. Coupled with the problem of unemployment among the youth are those associated with nation building in Nigeria, the largest African democracy. In an attempt to solve various problems, government and local governments, state and federal levels have employed a number of approaches. This will be the focus of the discussion in a way. But let's go to the definition of certain concepts. I'll be talking about self-identification and so on. So to do justice to the topic, self-identification, personal value addition, and entrepreneurship, panacea for youth unemployment and nation building, one would need to examine briefly each of the key concepts contained therein. These include self-identification, personal value addition, entrepreneurship, unemployment, and nation building. So let's look at self-identification. Somebody sang, "I know who I am." Do you know who you are? It's a question for us. Do you know who you are? I don't think so. Very few people here, but not everybody here. But I know who I am. There has been a long-standing wisdom in a Greek philosopher saying that man, know thyself. The term could be said to best explain self-identification. However, the Merriam-Webster dictionary says it is identification with someone or something outside oneself. The Learner's Dictionary, on the other hand, defines self-identification as the act of identifying oneself as a particular kind of person. It goes further to describe self-identification as how you see yourself or identifying yourself with someone or someone else. I know who I am. That's what it means simply. A clearer definition from the Oxford Dictionaries.com says it is as the assigning of a particular characteristic or categorization to oneself. Thus, the Learner's Dictionary gave an example of self-identification as seeing oneself as a great father. So from all the above, the term could be said to mean that every individual should study himself or herself thoroughly and understand his or her career capability, orientation, talent, or passion. Thus, a young school leaver, for example, somebody just finished high school, with renowned legal practitioners as parents and a well-equipped huge library, family law library, in the waiting, would require self-identification to be able to decide appropriately on his parents' advice of studying law in the university and becoming a lawyer in the future, like his parents and probably his siblings. So if such a person decides to study himself or herself, the person might realize that, look, I'm not cut out for memorizing huge volumes of retaining of articles, retaining long quotations and so on. I'm better using my fingers, I'm better at other things. I'm very good at technology. I can create things and so on. That person might be in the family, the parents might question the person and want to force the person to do something. But such individual may be more successful doing things with their hands, and technology. So, hence, the point being made here is that each man or woman must study himself or herself very well before choosing any life career or going into any professional practice. I have a nephew. His nickname is CK. But today, the world knows him. I don't think he uses any. He's just known by Ola Olusebanjo. He paints. He's a lawyer by profession. He sings. But now he does a lot of painting, particularly body work. He had to do some work for Beyonce on, is it Lemonade or something like that? And then he did something for Nike. And he's going all over. But I remember the fight he had with his father. The father insisted that he had to study law at all because the boy wanted to do arts in school. So today the law certificate has been put somewhere, gathering dust. And is there any money? You need to hear his father talking. For a long time, he had on his display photograph the suitcases that he did for one company. He painted, on those suitcases. And the man was probably saying this. And I remember this man taking all Laolu's clothes and soaking them in water that he would not go out to go and sing with his friends. Today he's saying, yes, he's making good money. He's happy. So there are so many people that are in something else. And somehow, this has even affected the children. Some have no self-identity, really, because they've been forced to be who they are not. But I know that these days, more parents are getting aware. You have some people that used to sneak out of their homes to go and be involved in theater. Now their parents are, proud of them. Before they'll say, you've gone to, in Yoruba, they have this derogatory way of saying it. Now you went to, sorry? alajota. But people are doing, now they are respected because there's more awareness that not all of us will be professors. I'm sorry, Professor Professor Laramola. Some will be, have 20 million in their account, and sing assurance, They have money. And, that's, what our parents want is that you must be gainfully, employed so that you will not be dependent on them. And now there's a need for people to have a shift, total shift, that, you don't have to be a lawyer to make money. You don't have to be a doctor to make money. I'm married to a medical doctor, and he says he doesn't even want any of our sons. That none of them can be anymore, because one is an economist and the other is an engineer. So he says there's no money in medicine. It's only the DR, the title you have, the prestige. I'm a doctor. Yeah, can you go to the bank and say, I'm a doctor, please, I want a loan of 100,000? It won't happen. So, self-identification is so important. And it could also be called self-evaluation. Let's look at personal value addition. Value addition. Value addition is seen as more or less a relative proposition which assumes magnanimous importance in today's dynamic world, especially in the service industry. Value addition refers to the enhancement of the value of something before the local producer. Let me use the farmer. You have grown something, you have plantain, and you haven't done anything with it except for you take it from your farm. But if you decide to add value to it, dry some of the plantain and make it into powder, you get more value from it. You have added something beyond the one that can easily perish. And then you can even do, maybe your wife decides to go into chips making and so on. So you have to do a lot of value addition to yourself. As young people particularly, I'm glad that the NYSC added some years back skills acquisition, vocational skills acquisition. We had to do that because our education had been so limiting. It goes beyond, education today should go beyond certification. You should be able to sabi. You can't have a certificate, you have an engineer that cannot even change the light bulb, or you have a plug, a defective plug, and you have the engineer that he can't do it. So you must acquire skills. Look at the issue. The ICPC man referred to the fact that you have a lot of people coming out of university these days. In fact, because we like quick fixes, we have so many kinds of institutions. Some 2 years, you are out there. After 2 years, you become a graduate of something, and you cannot do anything. The only graduate I believe most of these people are is the graduate with the certificates. At the end of the day, we just have those certificates, and you say they are looking for jobs. We have a problem. As I mentioned earlier on, we have to shift our mind shift. We must learn to value work. We don't value work. The kinds of work we value are maybe the banking work, the job, you work in a bank, or you are a lecturer, you are a doctor, forgetting that we're in an auditorium, for instance. I'm sure it wasn't just the civil engineers that built it. They had some masons that built this thing. And we are in dire need of skilled workers. We all plan to have houses, or don't you? Are you going to be hopping from one perching, or what do they call it in universities? When you are squatting. Is that what you intend to do all through your life? When you start having children, you say, okay, you go and stay with uncle. So, and the other person says with uncle, there's no money to get an apartment and so on. People will need to build houses. I don't see anything wrong in somebody that studied engineering, maybe civil engineering or something, going to learn to get it right. For you to know that when you build this kind of a thing, you can look, somebody looks at this wall and thinks that it's straight and smooth. We need such skilled workers. We also go to Togo to get them, and Benin Republic. We don't have them. Nobody wants to dirty their hands. We want to have money, but we do not want to work. But when we go abroad, you know, the amazing thing is that you find people drinking things and then dropping them on the floor and walking away. And then somebody said one day that, you know, the people that clean the streets, we have the OES cleaning the streets, that if you don't throw things on the streets for them, they won't have any work to do. People have said that. But when they go abroad, you see them cleaning train stations, cleaning everywhere. But we never want to do it here. So our problem, we must value work. We must value so many things. And I know it's the home that is the foundation for the society. Things have gone so bad. We have children having children. You can't give, what are you going to impact on them? You can't give what you don't have. So you find that even this value addition, people don't even know that they can develop themselves. I have a school. I have teachers. And I tell them, I encourage them to go for courses. We do 50-50. If the person is very valuable to me, I can do 60-40, you know, on courses. And I tell you that, you know, after this course, you cannot just leave. But I know that whatever I have invested in the person is still going to use it for my school. So it's going to be an addition to me because parents will see the difference. It's going to use it to teach the children before going away. And I have transformed their life. Because the person can go on there and do anything. We don't believe in learning so many things. If you don't want to go hungry with a high population, and nobody here is a farmer except me. I'm a small farmer. We have to multitask. We need to have multiple sources of income. Even a professor can have a farm. You don't have to go there to farm. You employ people. That way, you're giving somebody money, changing somebody's life. The person farms for you. You, with your connection, can get people that have plantain companies that they have dryers. They come and buy from you and so on. And that is what we are saying, that even amongst youth corpers, how many of you have gone into any venture? Since you came to Osun, you are from maybe Lagos or something, and you see that there's food everywhere. You haven't even done a little bit of business. The money is not enough. The 19,800 is not enough. Forgetting that, you have to learn to save. Little things, little drops will make an ocean. But people want huge money, a lot of things at the same time. It's not going to work that way. We will not build our nation that way. So talking about value addition, referring to the enhancement of value of something, okay, I've said that. Like you have fish, you smoke it, and then it has added something. It won't even go bad. So you can even, when somebody comes and prices your fish, and you say, look, I'm sorry, I know how much I put into this. The least I can sell it is this. It's not fresh, it is dry. So you have added something to it. You will get somebody else. If the person walks away, it's not fresh food that will go bad. And it's not going to eat again. If you dry it nicely, it's going to keep for a while. You take it somewhere, go to a supermarket and give them. You give me my money after sending, and you go and be checking. In case they would have sold it and they'll tell you, we can't find buyers. Go there every day. Send somebody there to check every day. You must add value. You can have youth corpers that are not computer literate. It's possible. A lot of people that are not computer literate. You have smartphones. All some people can do with their smartphones is sending WhatsApp, Snapchat. What's the other one? Instagram. You know? There's so much you can do. Even with that phone, you can upload your goods and send to somebody. And the person says, okay, I want this. Without even doing much. You might not even be the farmer, but you know a farmer. And you take pictures of the person's goods. And then you upload it that I can supply this at any time, and you have a good deal with the person. Middlemen will always make money. So this is how you can be creative about everything. But you are waiting for that bank to call you for interview, you will wait for Godot. So please, even if you sharpen your speaking skills, your communication skills, presentation skills, we're so lazy, we don't like to read. Read Read little books on leadership, on organizations. You know, learn these things. You add value to yourself. When you go for an interview or people meet you, you know, you have marketing skills. They're interested. They want to talk to you. And then when somebody says, I'm looking for somebody, say, I met this young person. What's the person's name? You have made an impression that you are called for a job. People, it has happened to many people, and it can also happen to you. So, let's look at, I've talked about the need for us to value work. Of course, I believe all of us here are educated, like this, we have the basics. We should also encourage people to get the basics. Reading skills, writing skills. Anything you write is a document and can be kept. I have people applying for jobs, and they're using small letters to write their, proper nouns, even starting the letter. People came in, someone will come, and they will see the name of the ministry, or even my personal business, see the name of the school, and then come and write something else. And I'll ask you, what's the name of the school? So you have written an application, and you pass through the gate, you didn't see anything. We're not aware of our environment at all. Not you, because you are aware. That is why we are here. But there are a lot of people. So you educate people, please. You never know what you have done. You won't know what you have done until that life is transformed. When you see people, encourage them to learn, to read, to write, and to talk to people. Little etiquette. When we voted this last election, I was in my hometown. And one of the officers, the presiding officer, assistant presiding officer, she saw me, I queued. But when she would tell people, okay, you should move back, and they were resisting, I'll go there, okay, you people should move back, and they say, oh, Commissioner, okay. Then they will move back, and I queued. At a point, there was an argument, so I went there to find out what it was. And she turned to me and she said, Commissioner, I was shocked. A young girl. So I told her, I said, you are very rude. She said, what has she said? I said, you have not been trained at home. I'm sure her mother may have tried, or maybe she's unfortunate. Maybe she didn't have anybody to teach her. Even the manner to which I approached her, should even tell her. And people just took up the fight on my behalf. So I told them, look. So later, luckily I had my ID. I said, this is my ID. So she said then she has said sorry. I said, the fact that you said sorry doesn't change anything, because she just said, maybe I said sorry. She was doing this too. And I said, you have no manners. And nobody can marry you. And if somebody marries you, I told her, I said, it was on the line, I said, if somebody marries you, I bet it cannot last. He will be hitting you and you'll be fighting. And then people said, I said, it's true. Later on she came, I said, look, it's for your own good. What you did was very rude, and I will not take that from anyone. But please, learn how to talk to people. It's so important. So we teach people along the way. So now, youth unemployment. Generally speaking, because I know you are off now, unemployment refers to a situation where people who are capable of working and are qualified by age, law, custom, and other factors to work cannot find employment. The problems of unemployment usually arise due to geographical and occupational immobility of labor as a result of inadequate information of job opportunities elsewhere. It could also be as a result of tribal sentiments or unavailability of infrastructural facilities in a particular location. Another factor, which we have just talked about, is the lack of skills. You will be unemployed if you lack skills. Various categories of unemployment have been identified as visible employment and so on, or underemployment. So you find that you also have educated unemployment, like people have been educated, so to say, they have certificates, but they are unemployed. And you have the uneducated unemployed. But whatever it is, learn other skills. You increase your chances of getting something. In fact, when you learn skills, you will see that you won't even have to wait to be employed. You begin to do something, and somebody does. There's a youth copper. I think he's still serving. I saw him one day. I went to the laundry. And he approached me. He said I was a youth corper and I was looking for extra job to do. I commended him. He said he's been coming over to the place to see if they could, give him employment, part-time employment. You know what he was doing? He was looking for another source of income. So I told him, I said, go around to people, go to offices, your ID card and everything. Have a deal with these people and tell them, look, I'll bring people's clothes. You give me a percentage. And then he will go, take their things, and come back. He will get a good percentage. And I want to believe he's done that. There are some people doing a lot. I met a lot of you. Some said they wanted to start a small business in the secretariat. And I tried to link them up. You can't sit here and say that 1 year will just be 1 year of staying in Osho and then you're out of it. Do something and have something, a saving for the period you are here. So, entrepreneurship. So, an economist, entrepreneurship is a very important factor of production. Because when you have entrepreneurs, you will have, you'll be looking at the future as if, yes, there's something for me ahead. That's why we're going through this. It organizes and coordinates the human and material resources in the production of goods and services. The entrepreneur can also be called the initiator, risk taker, or decision maker. She gets profit as a reward for her service or services, or may sometimes incur losses. I've heard of one person saying that, look, while he was a student in the University of Ilorin, he started farming. And there were times that he had to incur huge losses. He talked about when cattle overran his farm and ate his cassava. And then he had to run away because when he went to report to the police, he heard that the head of the cattle rearer said, look, let me see you. You went to report us to the police. Let me see you around this place. So he had to abandon the farm till he heard that man died before he went back. You have losses like that, in and out. But that is how it is. So what you're supposed to do, you learn from your losses or your gains. When you make profit, you don't go to town. If you're a millionaire, you have $1 million, and you take out of it to buy suits and buy good shoes and everything. Would you still have that $1 million? You become a thousandaire again. You must learn as an entrepreneur to also delay gratification. I'll talk about that later. So whatever project that is established must be properly managed. Otherwise, it will be utterly damaged. Managing a business activity requires activating the latent gains from experience, utilizing the innate endowments that are possessed, and learn from those who have successfully managed their business outfits or engaging the services of those to help make your dream a reality. Managing a project involves sitting at the duty post. Some people, they are skilled, but they are so restless. They will not sit there. People will come and look for you. You have gone to other people's shops or other people's businesses, or you've gone touring, showing off the little money you have for you to save. You've just, bought a car. And then, if you start a business, is it car that should be your first priority? When you have a profit, what should you do? Are you not supposed to plow it into your business? But the average Nigerian wants to show off. Then you now celebrate like 27th birthday. For God's sake, what is 27th birthday or 31st birthday? Even what is 30th or 21st birthday? Isn't it a day just like every other day? You must learn to conserve whatever, your resources, conserve it. You should also learn to strive for excellence. That is a missing gap in Nigeria. That is why we go and look for skilled laborers out there. And those ones will just come and think that everything ends and begins with them. If you have a business, if your parents have a business, and you are doing something different from your parents' business, I implore you to go and also learn the business, so that one day you will appreciate what has gone into that business. And it might be what you will fall back on. It might become a tradition for you. Because you have that abroad, except for Nigeria. Everything old is not good. You must start a new project. Everything new. You know? So we have forgotten our histories. We've forgotten things. Please appreciate what you have. Even your skin. Appreciate your skin. Appreciate everything. Your water, everything. Appreciate this, your soil. Do you know how many people envy us as Nigerians? When they see us, they say, the Nigerians. It's out of envy. It's not that there's anything wrong with us. We are Nigerians, proudly Nigerians. I know who I am. So please, make sure that whatever you learn, you excel in it. Then nation building. An ideal nation comprises of people occupying a well-defined territory, speaking the same language and having the same culture, race, historical experience, common destiny, and sometimes common religion. They could also have a common political economy. So, we have all decided that we are going to be a nation. You speak Ibibio, I speak Yoruba, you speak Edo, you speak Hausa, you speak whatever language you speak. We have said this marriage of strange bedfellows, we are going to manage it. So we will all do well to stick together and know that it's going to involve a lot of sacrifices. You're not too young to sacrifice. What you are doing today is a sacrifice, and I pray that you will be rewarded for it. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I said, it's an era of multitasking. It's an era of multiple sources of income. I want you to internalize certain nudges. For you to fight corruption, you have to get sound basic education. Encourage others too to get sound basic education. The reading, the writing, communication skills. There's nothing wrong in you learning other languages. You're a student of international relations. You can only manage to speak the English. If you learn another language, isn't it going to be a plus for you? So do something. Even in your country, you can only speak Yoruba and English. And I know that in universities these days, what you do is speak pidgin English. You hear graduates. So what did they happen now? That's it. So good character, don't forget that. If you want a Nigeria that we all enjoy, your character, remember integrity. You cannot compromise on integrity. Determination, patience is a virtue. All those things, make sure you learn those things. It is when you are patient that you will learn to delay gratification, to save, to get something better, instead of the quick fixes that we usually have. You will delay on sex. You will delay on marriage, because some of you have no business getting married. But because your friends are doing it, you now go and look for very expensive cameramen at the end of the wedding ceremony. You haven't finished paying for the clothes you wore. The makeup artist is handing you. The photographer is handing you. You haven't finished paying for the music man and everything. Please, cut your coat according to your material, not your size. Prioritize. And remember, family. You start from doing well from your family. You might end up in politics. Your community, let them know you for doing something good. Value work at all times. So I will leave you with this. More importantly, I wish to admonish you to internalize the following nuggets of truth from John Mason, as they will serve as guides to you in the nearest future, today and the future. It is impossible for man to be cheated by anyone but himself. Our best friends and worst enemies are the thoughts we have about ourselves. And Proverbs says, as a man thinks, so is he. And as a man chooses, so is he. And according to someone again, do not build up obstacles in your imagination. Have that I can do spirit. Know who you are. And the sky will be your beginning, not your limit. For me, as Topper said, she said, she has chosen. I'm saying again, I am incorruptible. I know who I am. And I'm going to make sure that I do my own best to ensure that others too are taught. I thank you for listening. I hope I haven't bored you too much.
If we're joining us together, now once again. Thank you very much, Mom. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that we have yet again been enlightened. She has been able to expose us to the fact that the Nigeria we are today is about certificate, not certificate. And also, she has also been able to tell us that Nigeria that has a great future begins with we the youth realizing ourselves and knowing who exactly we are. Thank you very much, Ma'am, for those motherly words. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to bring forward the chief guest speaker. Before then, I would like her to please rise as I read a short biography. Thank you very much. Professor Margaret Okorodudu Fubara is a 1972 graduate of the University of Lagos with a distinguished record in environmental law consulting and university teaching. She was called to bar in 1973. She obtained the LLM and SJD degrees in 1977 and 1980, respectively, from Harvard Law School, USA, after a first LLM degree from University of London, UK, in 1975. Professor Okorodudu Fubara, a former Dean of Faculty of Law of Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria, from 1995 to 2000. She is widely published in reputable national and international journals and is the author of the first Nigerian textbook on environmental law. Professor Okorodudu Fubara was granted the Senior Fulbright Scholar Award 1990-1991 and the Robert S. McNamara World Bank Fellow 1990-1991 to undertake overseas sabbatical as visiting scholar at the St. Mary's University School of Law, San Antonio, Texas, USA, 1990-1991. She was also appointed visiting professor at the School of Law, University of Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, USA, 2002, where she taught comparative environmental law. She was appointed consultant for the United Nations Environment Program, Nairobi, Kenya, 2002-2003. She engaged as part of the team to prepare a draft manual on the UNEP guidelines on compliance with enforcement of multilateral environmental agreements. Professor Okorodudu Fubara is a member of the IUCN and associate member of the IUCN Academy of Environmental Law. She was appointed by the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, member of the National Universities Commission in 2009. In 2012, she was appointed Federal Inland Revenue Service Professor of Taxation. That is a professorial chair. Ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not easy, let's jump up together and make welcome our chief guest speaker, Professor Mrs. Fubara.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me make an honest confession. I didn't want the last speaker to stop. I just enjoyed her presentation. But my only regret was that I wish I had more youths here listening to her, because that was really a dose that our youths needed to hear. On a second note, my dearest MC, you made an insinuation earlier on that I think my time of coming in here, the organizers actually told me 10 o'clock, and I entered Osogbo 9:30. The entrance to this place took us almost 30 minutes. That's why you saw us coming at the time we came, which I didn't count as late, because that was the time the organizers who came to my office gave me. So having said that, it's not in our habits, it's not my tradition to be late. You know, as lawyers, 9 o'clock, actually I practiced for 10 years before I came into teaching. 9 o'clock on the dot, you must be in court. And I think I observed those for the 9+ years I was in practice. So, my colleagues here too, I mean, they're used to that tradition. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me stand on existing protocols, but I must recognize my very distinguished Honorable Commissioner. Nice to have you in our midst today. With that, I stand on existing protocols because we have a lot to discuss today. Oh, you guys can get the PowerPoint. You can? Is it? Okay, okay. You can, yeah. So first, I think I was only given this topic less than 2 weeks ago. So actually I came with talking points. And I also tried to just imagine what my audience would be. I was going to talk to, you know, lawyers, so I have to bring it out to the level of judge in the way that my youth there can appreciate what we're, you know, going to discuss in this speech. Not the lecture. I was told guest speaker. So let me begin by saying that it's a pleasure for me to be invited as guest speaker at this public lecture organized by youths. I love youths. I spent all my life with youths. As a teacher, the theme of this lecture, Nigeria's future at stake, the need for youth introspection, orientation, and empowerment in the fight against corruption, which the Honorable Commissioner has really done justice to, is spot on. And the topic assigned to me, effects on corruption on economic growth, is very germane and right on target in the light of our pressing, unpalatable national experience. Corruption has remained a very serious issue of national concern in Nigeria. It certainly trumps other national issues on the platform of a very national discourse, such as the political issue of restructuring, on the scale of the most serious discourse currently engaging Nigerians. And the depth of this cesspool, or call it shithole, let us borrow Trump's word for it, called corruption in this country is unfathomable. The depth corruption has gone, the depth. I'm sure you have seen when those tankers bring fuel to, you know, to drop at petrol stations. The first of all go there and make sure and see how far, you know, the depth of the place is. The depth of corruption in this country, I say it's unfathomable. I can't say it's 33,000 feet, or it is unfathomable. It is killing Nigerians, and it is killing our country. It must be arrested and curbed from the life of this country if Nigeria must survive as a robust and fully developed national economy. But an economy that is a fully developed economy reflected by the quality of life of the generality of Nigerians. Let the quality of life of Nigerians define, okay, how developed our economy is.
Let me at this point also take a moment to applaud the organizers of this event for the choice of this public lecture, and particularly the topic I've been assigned to. As I said earlier on, it is of utmost relevance to the survival of the soul of our nation. Corruption is baneful in the very sense of the word on our prospects for economic growth, and we must recognize it for what it is. And I'm glad that our youths have taken very serious cognizance of this. The fact that corruption is a killer, a deadly poison that must be kept under check and possibly subdue it. Members of the anti-corruption CDS group, National Youth Service Corps, Osun State Chapter, congratulations. You have taken a very bold, patriotic initiative to contribute to the sustainable growth of our country. Indeed, I believe your team deserves to be proposed for consideration for the International ACE, that is the Anti-Corruption Excellence Award, under the category of the Anti-Corruption Youth Creativity and Engagement Award. If you will only remember the message of the last speaker, I'm sure you can be fired on to make sure that you register for this kind of award. Let me tell you again that you are not too young to run with this very bold idea of yours. A while ago, I think it was in the late decade of the last millennium, kids, 12, 13-year-olds, members of the ECHO, Environmental Children Organization, who are much younger than yourself. These are kids, 12, 13-year-olds, actually impacted the global community at the United Nations when they kept world leaders, their fathers and their mothers, spellbound at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. The kids, speaking through their spokeschild, a 13-year-old, called on their listening adults to change their ways and policies which were negatively impacting the global environment for the sake of themselves and generations yet unborn. And I can tell you on full authority that what the kids did that day had a great impact. It made a difference. Because I was with UNEP. I worked with UNEP for a while. And I saw that the involvement of the kids really got everybody really thinking and changing their ways and also trying to make a difference. I remember the MC asked the first speaker the question, what are you doing to make sure that those kids did something and they left an impact, okay? And I believe that you too can do something and leave an impact. There's a clip, I don't know if you can, all right, maybe can you show that clip of the kids at the United Nations? Because I want you to be fired up. Can you show it? I'm sure many of you have seen this. If your kids haven't seen it, I'm sure that your uncles and you've seen it. Yes. I'm always so, I'm captivated anytime I listen to those kids.
Losing my future computers, intelligence sets. The list could go on for 2 days. 2 days ago, here in Brazil, we were shocked when we spent time with some children living on the streets. This is what one child told us. I wish I was rich. And if I were, I would give all the street children food, clothes, medicines, shelter, and love and affection. If a child on the streets who has nothing is willing to share, why are we who have everything still so greedy? At school, even in kindergarten, you teach us how to behave in the world. You teach us to not fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our mess, not to hurt other creatures, to share, not be greedy. Then why do you go out and do the things you tell us not to do? Do not forget why you are attending these conferences, who you're doing this for. We are your own children. You are deciding what kind of world you're growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world. And we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. Are we even on your list of priorities? My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown up saying you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
That's you. That's you, our children, our kids. You know what? President Olusegun Obasanjo was in that meeting. And I remember he spoke not long after that. And you can be sure that Baba doesn't let an opportunity to pass. He said, yes, in Africa where he comes from, children don't talk to their parents like that. He said, for these kids to come out and say this today, he told his colleagues, we better get our acts together. Yes, I have that in one of my other presentations somewhere else. So the kids made an impact. They made a lasting impression on their parents, which I believe that members of, you Organised, you can do the same thing too. Now, let's get started on this. The first speaker, well, I'm starting, you can see corruption defined. Corruption defined. Are you corruption defined? Yes, getting it right. The first speaker said, there's no general definition of corruption. What makes it not here? There is an accepted and agreed definition of corruption. Corruption is corruption anywhere in the world. Because sin is sin. Not so. It's any sin that is not a sin somewhere. Sin is sin. Corruption is corruption. And again, the United Nations has tried to make this clear. There's the United Nations Convention against corruption. It has even expanded it. So we all get, a global, a general understanding of what corruption is. So let me continue, man. So let's make sure that there is no conflicting understanding. For us here in Nigeria, let's make sure that there is no conflicting understanding of corruption as we are currently experiencing with restructuring in this country. We must all be on the same page as to the true meaning and understanding of corruption. Corruption is corruption. Simply put, the dictionary defines it as an act of corrupting or being in the state of corrupt. Then it defines corrupt again as guilty of dishonest practices, such as bribery. And of course, example, there was a corrupt judge and debased in character. But then, as lawyers, we have to take the definition of what how the law defines corruption. So corruption under Section 2 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2003 is defined to include bribery, and other related offenses. Very smart. And those other related offenses are now specified in almost section 12 all through section 29. Ratification by official, corrupt offers to public officers, corrupt demand by persons, fraudulent acquisition of property, fraudulent receipt of property, offenses committed through postal system, 419, what are Yauti? Yeah. Deliberate frustration of investigation by the commission, making false statements, ratification through agents, bribery of public officers, using office or position for gratification. I like the way the United Nations Convention on Against Convention puts it. It said trading in influence. Trading in influence or your position of function. Well, you know, OAU was in the news not too long ago. You know, when lecturers still think that they can use their position of influence or function over and above their students, you will be caught under the Global Convention and under the laws of this country. Is there, you know, using office or position for gratification. Then bribery in related auction, bribery for giving assistance. It's so broad. The net is so wide. So let me stop there. You can have a copy of this later, okay? So the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index defines and perceives corruption across a spectrum of illegal payments and transactions, such as bribes and so on and so on. But you know what? I like the way the index, CPI index also puts it. There's grand corruption. Okay, it has three, you know, parts again. Grand corruption, that is as committed at high level of government that distorts policies of the central functioning of the state and enabling leaders to benefit at the expense of the public good. Then petty corruption, petty corruption, everyday abuse of entrusted power by low and middle level public officers in their interaction with ordinary citizens, often trying to access public basic goods and services. Then political corruption, manipulation of policies, institutions and rules of procedure in the allocation of resources by financing by political decision makers who abuse their position to sustain their power and status and wealth. You can see all this from very technical, but I will attempt now to put this in a clearer and much easier to follow perspective by defining corruption as epitomizing somebody, just imagine pictures, somebody in a position of authority, responsibility, or accountability, dealing adversely, dishonestly, or immorally with the public trust or good, directly or indirectly in this. I put indirectly there because I also want to capture the private sector. Private sector, when you come into the public sector and you try to adversely influence the public officer, you are also caught in it. By directly or indirectly in the service of the nation to the detriment of the people and the country. That individual in the position of trust that is adversely using it reaps illegal gains and capital or momentarily satisfaction from the position of trust, authority, responsibility, and accountability. He turns his official, whether as junior or senior worker position, into a cash cow to milk the nation to the detriment of the country and the people. Corruption impoverishes the nation and the ordinary citizens. One of the major drivers of corruption is poverty. And I use the word poverty, listen, I use the word poverty in the very broad sense. That is poverty of mind, poverty of morals, and not just poverty in terms of money, lack of money, materials, or food. You can have this whole auditorium here still full of money, and you can still be poor. That's poverty of mind. What the anti-corruption movement that we are currently experiencing in this country boils down to is the determined quest or search for integrity as the ultimate moral fabric that will define our nation. And you can see all this reflected in all the laws. I won't have time to go into that, but yeah, well, let me say it. The anti-corruption, and all the codes of conduct bureau, EFCC, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, Money Laundering Unit, Money Laundering Prohibition Act, Financial Responsibility Act, Public Procurement Act, and then Recovery of Public Property Act. There's so many laws, okay? We are not short of laws to try and contain corruption in this country. We have more than enough laws. So they are out there. Now, let us look at the seamy side, the unpleasant angle of corruption. Why everybody is so anti-corruption. I believe that we are all anti-corruption in this room. Corruption is a nagging problem across the world. Corruption is corruption anywhere in the world. Nigeria is not spared of this cankerworm. For us, it is so bad that unfortunately, a prime minister of another country had the audacity to say, not privately, but in the open and to the hearing of everybody, that Nigeria is fantastically corrupt. Successive administrations have sought to take the bull by the horn and rid the nation of corruption and its destructive side effects. Majorly capital drain and negation of economic growth and development. President Muhammadu Buhari, since assumption of duty or office in May 2015, has continued to receive national, regional, and international accolades for its determination to rid Nigeria of corruption. But now, let's look at the big picture of corruption. The big picture. Look at the next one, that's the big picture. Okay, that's the big picture. Aha. And nobody else will paint it more vividly. Now that first icon of the FCC, Nuhu Ribadu. And I just picked this from his presentation at, before the United States Finance Hearing Committee. And Nuhu Ribadu said, listen, I'm quoting Nuhu Ribadu, that between 1960, you can imagine what has happened since the time, between 1960 and 1999, Nigerian officials have stolen or wasted more than $440 billion. That is 6 times the Marshall Plan. You know what the Marshall Plan is? The total sum that was needed to rebuild a devastated Europe in the aftermath of the Second World War. When you look across a nation and a continent riddled with poverty and weak institutions, and you think of what this money could have done, only then can you understand the crime of corruption and the almost inhuman indifference that is required by those who wield it for personal gain. The West must understand that corruption is part of the reason that African nations cannot fight diseases properly, cannot feed their population, cannot educate their children, and use their creativity and energy to open the doorway to the future they deserve. The crime is not just theft, it is negligence. Wanton negligence, the full impact of which is likely impossible to know. I have said it before, and while I know it is a controversial statement, I stand by the idea that corruption is responsible for as many deaths and the combined result of conflict than HIV/AIDS on the African continent. I see people suffer, and while they may not know why or how exactly, they understand that it is unjust. They know right from wrong, and they know that as long as these systems are allowed to thrive, their lives will never be better. But so long as buying to corruption is the primary way of succeeding in certain societies, it trains generations after generations to accept its yoke. Please don't accept that yoke, my dear youths. Get their due and ignore those around them. On a regional dimension, it is estimated that $20 billion leaves Africa annually through illicit money extorted from development loan contracts. The loan is deposited in overseas banks by a network of politicians, civil servants, and businessmen. The figure is now roughly equal to the entire amount of aid from the US to sub-Saharan Africa every year. This outflow is not just abstract numbers. It translates to the concrete reality of kids who cannot be put in school, who will never learn to read and write because there are no classrooms. Mothers who die in childbirth because the money for maternity care never made it to the hospitals. Tens of thousands who die because there are no drugs and vaccines in the hospitals. No roads to move produce from farms to markets to enable them to have a thriving economy. No jobs for the young school graduates or even ordinary workers. No security for anyone because the money has been stolen or shipped out. The picture I paint here is that of my country. The picture of a potentially great land slowly poisoned by the idea that importunity of lawlessness is success. The picture of a land held hostage for decades by a kleptocratic bunch of fraudsters who build a career in politics to protect their own line of revenue. That's Nuhu Ribadu. End quote. Now, let me talk briefly on the negative impact on economic development. Please bear in mind, there's an overwhelming consensus that corruption is bad for economic growth and overall development of the country. And it is necessary to state in clear and simple terms that evil effects of corruption on a country. An organization dedicated to prevention of detection, deterrence, and fraud has presented about 10, let me give you just 10 briefly. Corruption, impacts economic growth in following manner. High, are you looking at that? I put the impact of it, okay, yeah. High prices to consumers, reduced investment that will lead to reduced goods and services, reduced commitment from donor agencies, reduced foreign direct investment, FDI, reduced tax revenues. People won't pay their revenue, there's tax evasion, tax avoidance. Then government's inability to finance budget expenditures, deficit financing, inferior public infrastructures. Look at the road I took when I was coming, but I've discovered a better road now. When I'm going back, I think I will take that road. Look, that road could have, something better could have been done to it. Poor maintenance of public infrastructure, yes. Corruption leads to uncertainty in economic transactions. Corruption also reduces investment and economic growth. I will let you have this. They are, I blew them out. Okay? You all know that, okay? I have about 3 pages. I'll give it to you. I'll give this copy to you later. Let's look at this bizarre contra view of corruption. Bizarre contra view of corruption. I want to speak on this briefly because I think that is the lie from the devil that wants to sell out, and then a very easy platform now for corruption to keep fighting back. Let me say up front that this is obviously an unsubstantiated minority view of corruption, notwithstanding the reasonable and scientific proven findings, facts, figures, supporting the conclusion of adverse effects of corruption on economy and development. There is the economic school of thought which seeks to postulate that corruption is not bad for the economy. Youths, many of you studied economics when you were in school, and I knew that you must have come across this. That's why I felt that you just say what or turn it. A study that was carried out under the auspices of UK essays on whether bureaucratic corruption is sanding or greasing the wheels of economic growth surmised that although a majority of cross-country studies have shown that corruption is harmful to the economic growth, it is postulated that, findings are that universally valid that, corruption could also be good in some cultures. I think maybe that's what the earlier speaker was trying to refer to. So what are these schools of thought? The sanders and the greasers. The Standards, you know what standards is? Sand, iyekpe. So the standards view are that corruption is a major obstacle to development and a cause of underdevelopment and the absence of growth. Corruption prevents economic and legal system from functioning properly. Corruption leads to misallocation of talent, that is human development. Corruption reduces incentive to accumulate capital, cash flows. Corruption stands the wheels of progress, of growth, and it has negative relationship between corruption and growth and market economic and political transactions. Whereas the greasers, help me grease it well, the greasers' view are that corruption fosters development by allowing agents to overcome government failure. Are you getting that? No. Corruption lubricates economic systems by allowing agents to circumvent cumbersome and time-consuming regulations. Corruption is like a competitive auction. Those who want a service the most get it, and the result is an efficient allocation of resources. Corruption greases the wheels of development or positive relationship between growth and development, and through that fosters growth. Corruption facilitates beneficial trades that would otherwise have not taken place. 519. In doing this, corruption promotes efficiency by allowing individuals in the private sector to correct or circumvent pre-existing government failures of various sorts. Let me tell you, there's no doubt that as far as our country, Nigeria, is concerned, and against the general backdrop of our own country's culture and experiences of the effect of corruption, this postulation by the greasers is a big lie from the pit of hell. It does not apply to Nigeria, and it must be rejected outright. Corruption is bad for Nigeria's economic growth and development. That is our stand, period. So I'm almost finishing now. So what is the way going forward? Going forward, what is the way? I postulated something which I call Nicorexit. Are you saying going forward? Nicorexit, okay. The President, Muhammadu Buhari, is very committed to tackling corruption and stamp it out of our system. However, the government and all the legal and institutional framework that we have established for this purpose cannot do it alone. It cannot achieve the ultimate goal for the good of Nigerians. We find the goals in all the laws that are specified there. It cannot do it alone. It is very critical to this end that the people, the citizens of Nigeria, must also resent corruption with the full force required and be equally determined to get rid of it at personal and official and business levels. That means that wherever we are placed, whether in our places of work, our businesses, or our career, we must all be involved in the national battle against corruption. And we must vote yes to the exit of corruption in Nigeria, which I call Nicorexit. Nicorexit. Nigeria corruption exit. A Nigeria that is free of corruption. Yes, we can have it. Where we exit corruption from Nigeria. We all vote for it. And when we all vote for it, it means that we are all going to join the battle. Be as full soldiers in it. Corruption must bow to the determined onslaught by the government and patriotic people of Nigeria and take its exit from this country. As stated earlier, the legal and institutional machinery for the fight against corruption in Nigeria include, let me give it to you now, Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2003, Recovery of Public Property Special Provisions Act 1983, Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act 1991, Advanced Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act 1995, 419 Act, the one we call 419 Act, Dishonor Checks Offences Act 1997, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act 2002, now 2004, Finance Control and Management Act 2004, Public Procurement Act 2007, Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011, Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit Regulations 2015, and, of course, the ground norm, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, specifically the Code of Conduct for Public Officers. Now, let me bring to your attention, too, that the federal government has taken the fight against corruption closer to the people, more or less as active foot soldiers, with the inauguration of what used to be the ACTUS, Anti-Corruption and Transparency Units, now the Ethics and Compliance Units in ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, of the government. First, in 2001, during the President Olusegun Obasanjo administration, the federal government considered and approved the request of the erstwhile ICPC for the establishment of the Anti-Corruption and Transparency Monitoring Units, ACTUS, in MDAs. The Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act, number 5 of 2000, was repealed, and in 2003, reenacted as Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act, number 6 of 2003, to prohibit and establish and prescribe punishment for corrupt practices and other related offenses, and to establish Anti-Corruption Commission. Note that the name of the corruption is changed to Anti-Corruption Commission, no longer the ICPC, no longer the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. It's now the Anti-Corruption Commission. Subsequently, by virtue of another circular, dated 16th of April 2003, the federal government approved the establishment of institutions now referred to as the Ethics and Compliance Unit in MDAs. The chairman and commission, in accordance with powers vested in him, released guidelines cited as the standing order for the operation of ethics and compliance in MDAs, which replaces the standing order for the operation of the ACTUS in MDAs. And this came into force on the 1st of January 2014. The Ethics and Compliance Unit in each organization operates as an autonomous outfit. It is independent of the MDA, of the particular agency that is in. And it maintains a functional linkage with the office of the chief executive of the respective establishment. The units in MDAs that are self-accounting report directly to the commission. So, for example, if there's any issue of reported, corruption within your unit, when you've made your findings and you report directly to the commission in Abuja, you don't have any prosecution powers. The duties of the Ethics and Compliance Unit clearly excludes prosecution, and this is spelled out under Section 10 of the 2003 Act. It's quite long, I reported, so I will skip that. Their duties, somebody here, except if you want to know, but you'll get a copy of this, okay? You familiarize yourself more with the duties and of the MDA. But the MDA is a very, very important, institutions in the MDAs. Through their functions, you can see why we believe that they're a very, very important instrument for fighting corruption in this country. So what is the modus operandi of these MDAs to checkmate corruption? I've also coined something that there should be public-private people participation. The standing order for the operation of Ethics and Compliance Unit, in order to co-opt the generality of staff, that is of the organizations, within the organization, into an all-embracing anti-corruption network, spells out general codes of ethics for staff and the Ethics Compliance Unit members. I call this the 10+ commandments. As human beings, we also had 10 commandments, so that we will not fall into sin. Yeah, it's 10 plus, because it's more than 10. I have this here. Commissioner, don't worry, I'll give you a copy. Maybe you can help calculate this. I'll give you a copy of this speech because it's important. And then I'll give you a copy. So that you see this, no, it's not my own because it's from Abuja, the RCPC. 10 plus commandments to ensure the realization of extant anti-corruption regulations. You know, as we spelled out, the civil service rules, the national anti-corruption strategy, and the national ethics policy, the code of conduct for public servants, and the extant criminal code. This is the major strategy, I believe, through which the activities of the ethics and compliance unit, formerly ACTUS, will promote the eradication of or checkmating incidences of corruption in Nigeria, and the organizational space in particular. Because you know that corruption, you know the cooking pot of corruption in Nigeria? In the civil service, in the place of work, in the public service. That's the cooking pot. You go and see the cooking pots there. It's unfortunate that this cooking pot is bigger in some ministries or agencies than in others. Not in general, the cooking pot is also in National Assembly. And as much as Mr. President is trying, cooking pot can also be in Aso Rock. So let us pray that we are going to break all these cooking pots. Maybe they are all in clay form. Even if they are in iron, we can call on the power, the greatest power, to crack it. So corruption has to be nipped in the bud before it's pressed into full bloom. That is the rationale behind this ethics and compliance unit ACTUS. So that if we all have these policing factors, what is the neighborhood, what that we have in neighborhood to check crimes? Neighborhood vigilante. Yeah, more or less are the neighborhood vigilante within each establishment. So if we have it now and they perform their duty diligently too, without being corrupted, it will end. To this end, the ethics and compliance development, ethics and compliance unit develop codes of conduct. For each code, you know, each unit also has its own peculiar, you know, so you have to develop your own. For now, if in OAU now, we see that we have very strict, for any lecturer that adversely deals with the student, you know, there's some, not that it's only in OAU or in university, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Even in secondary school, in okay, let's leave that, okay. Yeah. So this end, you know, I had to deal with, and then the code of conduct also spelled out here, okay? Kids, I'll let you have it, okay? And take your time to read it and see the code of conduct, things you should do and things you should not do, okay? So that it will be well with you. But the important thing is that whistleblowers are protected, or you know, you heard the first one thing, you know that, please join this, but when you see something going on, speak out. Speak out. You have heard about this Me Too movement. You too, we have our own whistle movement, and make sure that we don't let corruption come into the middle between us and Nigeria, and the corruption, we must divorce it completely. So whistleblower, there's great protection for you there. The Ethics and Compliance Unit shall ensure strict compliance with all applicable statutory provisions and codes of ethics. There are prescribed penalties for violation of the integrity codes. And this is specified there. The paragraph 16 there says that any staff or unit member found compromising the ethics of his or her duties shall be disciplined in accordance with the sections of existing anti-corruption and disciplinary regulations, including civil service rules and of financial regulations, the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, the National Ethics Policy, the Code of Professional Conduct, as well as other anti-corruption provisions contained in the laws and regulations of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In order to foster sustained popular support and stake in the spread of anti-corruption culture, because we want to build a culture that we want to build the anti-corruption culture in Nigeria. We want a Nigeria that is corruption-free, where corruption has been exited, a NICOR exit. That's what we want to build for Nigeria. In order to achieve this, there is also a reward system for role models. The Ethics and Compliance Unit is authorized to present award recommendations and appreciation to staff of the organization who consistently demonstrate integrity and professional conduct in service delivery. Furthermore, the unit is mandated to recommend to the Commission that a letter of recommendation be written to deserving members of the organization for their integrity and outstanding performance. Perhaps sometime in the near future, we may well have well-deserving Nigerians nominated for the International AIDS Anti-Corruption Excellence Award. It is not impossible. In conclusion, distinguished audience, at this point, I'm concluding on an apt ecumenical note. I want to go ecumenical now. By citing from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 12, verse 33. And listen very well, because I know that there are Muslims in this place, and I tell you, anybody who gets it, you will get free, maybe I'll get you something for recharge. If you can get the corresponding section in the Quran, because I know it must be in the Quran. It must be there. So the first one that gets it and comes to show me and I can read it and understand it, you will get this award that I'm giving to you. So, starting from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 12, verse 33. Jesus Christ speaking, and I'm quoting, either make the tree good, tree, igi, either make the tree good and his fruits good, the fruit good, or make the tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by the fruit. End quote. Let me decode this for you. Let me decode this for you. There are two salient keywords here in what Jesus Christ is saying. And in the context of this speech, in the context of this topic, the tree, Igi, is Nigeria. And the fruits, fruit, orombo, mango, and all this, as Nigerians. Three Nigeria fruits, Nigerians. And the same chapter, verses 34 to 35, continues. And I'm quoting again the Lord Jesus Christ. O generations of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. A good man out of the good treasures of the heart bringeth forth good things. And an evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. End quote. We decree. The generation of corruption vipers, milking Nigeria and Nigerians' sake, will soon be a thing of the past. If we are all determined to make it so, Nigeria shall in due course end the enviable reputation among top 10 least corrupt countries in the world. Let's all join hands with the Anti-Corruption Commission and the Ethics and Compliance Units in MDAs to make this vision a reality. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you. God bless you.
Can we please do that one more time? Jam your hands together for Professor Mrs. Okorodu Fubara. Thank you. Wow. That says a lot. Someone said that Nigerians can only fix Nigeria. Going by the verse of the scripture she used at the end of it all, we are Nigerians, we can only fix this thing. Oftentimes, I say to people, when we see, we call them different names, they come from different countries, United States, UK, Europe, and everywhere. They come to Nigeria to do a lot of things. The past governorship election in Osun State, I was very much working with the International Situation Room for that election. On the eve of the election, I have never seen the ambassador to Italy, France, Spain, Germany, 4 of them together in Osogbo here. And I began to ask myself, what exactly will these guys do if anything happens about the election? You would agree with me, and I, of course, I give respect to my commissioner any day. When we had the rerun, there was so much noise. When we had it on Saturday, it was good. When we had the rerun, there was noise. They all released their press statement after that. But it didn't change the result that INEC released. So, it's made me to conclude that Nigerians will fix Nigerians. Oyinbo will not fix it for us. I'm telling you. Oyinbo is not going to fix it for us. So until we begin to do it as Nigerians, if Nigerians working in INEC, Nigerians working with EFCC, Nigerians working with the police, in the army and everyone, we have Nigerians as leaders in this country, that is when we can fix it. They are not going to fix anything for us. They can bring aids from now till Jesus comes. They still cannot fix it for us. It has to be us. I remember I was a child in where the first time Buhari was the head of state. That time when they started the Y. Who born you? Who born you in the 83, 84? You dare not. You dare not. Even your parents will be telling you at home, don't drop nylon on the road. They will catch you. I remember one woman on our street then. The day they came to beat that woman. You know what she was doing? The child poo. I remember very well. The child poo, and she now brought that child outside of the house, and she was washing the bum of the baby. Those people were passing that time. They carried koboko, gave the woman. Yeah, I was like, I was shocked, as a child. And everybody, everything about us, they went back to factory settings. When you know somebody is watching you that time. But everything just came and it went bad and it got worse and it's becoming so big. Corruption in Nigeria is bigger than our population now. Yes, it's bigger than our population. But just like she has been saying, I remember when I was 7 too, about 16 years ago, someone came to give us a talk like this. And after we finished that talk, one of the core members said to me, he's an Hausa guy from Bauchi State. He said, Deji, by 2011, I will be the most qualified master's holder in my village, and I'll be qualified to run for the House of Rep. I'm talking about 2002. That was what the guy told us then. In 2011, we found that guy in the House of Rep. I'm telling you. We found him in the house. He's still there now. He said he's going to be the most qualified guy in his village. So a whole lot of things going on around us, which we really, really have to take note of. Don't let us just listen to all of these things they say to us. Let us act them. We need to act them, the things they tell us. Let's behave it, and let us do it right for once. It starts with you and I. If you do it well, your neighbor does it well, the number begins to increase that way, then we are going to get better. The question you should ask yourself is, why is it that when you traveled out of this country, when they ask you to stay on the line, everybody stays on the line? But when in Nigeria, you want to jump queue, everybody just behave well when we are out of here. So it means it is something on the inside of us. The first time I ever left this country, when we got to the airport in Turkey, it was Turkey. And I saw Nigerians, everybody was just behaving well. And I was asking myself, are we crazy? We must be crazy to be behaving well, because you don't behave well at home. But everything just began to happen like that. So let us work on ourselves, and just like our prof prayed at the end of it all, that we shall get a reward for doing the right things if we actually determine to do it. Please, once again, put your hands together for the Honorable Commissioner and Professor for delivering that wonderful one for us. Okay, right now, we want to take a few questions from us. I would really love if those children from, what's the name of that school again? Yemokem? Foyekem? If any of them could have a question. Any of you children, you have a question to ask Prof. I know you want to become a prof one day. Do you have a question? I saw the lady in hijab. You want to stand up? Okay, you don't have any. All right, let me go to my very distinguished core members. Let's take one or two questions for our guests before they leave. Okay, I have one person. Can you please come forward? Thank you. The girls will not talk now. And you want to become governor? The female, yeah. Honorable Dat.
President, they are those who are making this law, so they have left a real vacuum in the law that is democratic for people want to do. We heard of the China commissioner or the one China about the wristwatch. The minister about the wristwatch that he did not afford. And it was just a picture of the wristwatch somebody saw and said, they are three wristwatches or they are three pairs of wristwatches in the world. And this man's salary is the public police officer should not be able to afford this. And the next thing he was doing is whole family was disaster immediately. That is the law that is working. I think we need to go back to our classrooms. I think we need to check things on board. The ICPC manual, which was about, because I wanted to say something. To prosecute somebody who stole money, in my own country, it's still going to cost me to pay a huge sum to do that.
Yeah.
Please let me know. So that we can use that money to get better work and get better jobs. Because if the system does not provide law to arrest immediately and check immediately, and it has to be a case where we have to spend money in vain. Sir, sorry. Please let me know. Let's face other things that are living with our own lives. I used to tell you, I said, I am not the generation of tomorrow. My future is not tomorrow, but my future is now. And whatever I can do now is what is going to be my tomorrow. So, Viva, what are you actually doing to put checks and balances into our laws that are in existence? Mommy, I don't need a law saying if I steal $1,000, I'll be killed for 40 years. I want to see $1,000. People say yes, I need to corrupt countries around the world. I said in the United States, yes, we are found to be corrupt. Police officers have been corrupt for footballers, for athletes, for musicians. But they won't collect $500 from me. They will collect something that they know their pension careers is worth more than. It's not up to what it's going to be to me. So practicing corruption there is going to be for the minimal ways. Our laws need to check this. Is there any law for us putting these laws into it? Very good.
Thank you for your very apt introduction and your questions. So, we say law, and that's it, social engineering.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Well, okay.
Yes. You know, while we were talking, I remember that it looks as if the problem is insurmountable. That's how it is. You know, it's like an hydra. It cuts this one, another one swings up against it. For me, what I decided to do was to start an elementary school. I started with a new school. And I said to myself, I want to be a woman that will make a difference in my generation. So the children, I go through the phase of teaching, my motto is developing good character and competence. So that we can begin to teach our children from that very young age. You don't tell lies. You know, all this character, good character, the values, you must teach them. And that is what you have to do. We talked about the home earlier, and she mentioned something like that. You have to go back to the home, and you have to take pains. When I look at young people, I have young children, and I say, I know that no person is an island. So I want, because they will be friends to my children, I have to take pains to make sure that all their friends know the difference between good and bad. You will take the pain, and you keep saying it, because we don't have those structures anymore. What you said is that, you know, that system where a girl comes out from one room, before you hit the end of the street, somebody has sent you back. How can you be just like, oh, my God, that man, you know, they'll say things that you will have to, everybody talk. But these days, if you say something, some people will say, please don't mind your business, so don't come and give me for my parents. When they say things like that, you talk back to them, who are you talking to? I just gave you an example of the girl that said, Commissioner, what do you call yourself? I said, are you talking to? A very rude person. You know, even with a soft tone. So we must take pains. We need that will. We don't have that self-will. That will to want to stand. We get tired because when you think you are blocked this way, it comes from another way. And then after you just raise your hand to give up. You don't. Somebody gave an example. They are abroad. They were queuing to check in. And that Nigerian people just went, he just went to the front. You know, he thought those that were standing on the queue were there to play. And immediately, the man got to the front and was making inquiry. Those on the queue just turned, you know, backwards, facing backwards. And that is, in that culture, is the highest insult. And then the person said, look, please go back to the queue. You know, we know the right thing, but because even, I'm a public officer now, even those around you, because of psychophancy, and this thing in our heads that you are like, well, you have a post, you are the all and all. So people must worship you. They'll tell you, even when you say, it is, it seems as if it's getting dark. The idiot will say, yes, yes, yes. And it's a lie. It is just, what time is it? But because they want to please you, because of what they want, you know, we've gone so bad. And it pains. That how can we, as a nation, descend this low? So it is even for the little children that are here. The truth be told, the truth, you stand by the truth. I have a system. If a child tells me the truth, I will not beat the child. Because that child, in all trepidation, has told the truth. So why are you beating the child? But if the child tells a lie, and then the child is in another keg of fish entirely, so we should just encourage each other. Even when you see people, and you remember, they say in Yoruba land, you know, the manner of approach to some people. Somebody has done something really bad, and you just shout at the person. The person, of course, will be embarrassed and aggressive, kind of, because look, we have reached that point. We must use every method to try and check things. So, you know, when you see someone, you know, find a way of correcting that person. Some don't even know that is wrong. And we must make people know that we have the right thing to do, we have the wrong thing to do. So, I believe one way, your little bit, my little bit, somehow will make a chunk, will make a difference.
I think one of the best ways to get it also do with I told him, I said, I don't have to do all of that because they will let it took 2 years. A year later, we went to their house. I didn't say anything to this boy. He just went, he said, Grandpa, he said Yoruba anyhow. But he frustrated. I didn't teach him. We live in Yoruba land. And he knows I do it. Whenever we go, I remember the day we saw you at the market. When they saw me meet the commissioner, she also went down. The boys, when they see, children don't do what you say. They do what is true. That's it. They do what you do. Imagine a child that asks the parents, that what is your salary for you to build this thing? And the stupid father also follow the boy to the school. This is what you are teaching them. When the boy knows that you are collecting a bigger amount, you are building a mansion that can house 200 million people. You got your work, okay? My brother.
My name is Osogbo. Actually, I'm not asking you a question. I'm just.
Okay, come in here. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, the scripture. Oh, you got it? This guy, Moses. What?
Pardon?
Quran 2. Quran 2.
And do not consume one another's wealth unjustly, or send it in bribery to the rulers in order that they might aid you to consume a portion of the wealth of the people in sin. Why do you do it unlawfully?
It's not.
Another verse says, and O my people, this Surah 2, verse 85 says, O my people, give just measure and wait, nor withhold from the people things that are their due. 85. For it is not evil in the land, but hated to do mischief. So the last of all, the Prophet Sallallahu said, the man went to Prophet Sallallahu said to him that, Prophet, will you not appoint me to a public office? So the Prophet now shows shoulder like this. That that person that went to him, you are weak, and authority is the trust. On the day of judgment, it is the cause of humiliation and regret, except for one who fulfills its obligations and properly discharge the duties. So what you have is that the training a tree that is bad, you put to bad.
Yes.
It's not common for us to have word for word or the same.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one you read seemed to be closer. Yeah.
Yes, the first one.
That first one seemed to be closer.
The first one.
The first one seemed to be a bad food.
Yeah,
that one seems to be closer to it. That a corrupt fruit, a corrupt tree will yield. No.
I'm telling you, there's no.
I know, but you said, I said that first one you read seemed to be more correlated.
Yeah, the first one you read was more correlating.
Yes.
And do not consume one another's wealth unjustly.
No. I think it's even the
first one.
No, that's the first one. This is the first one.
Why do you know it is unlawful?
Okay. Yeah, good.
All right.
Well, he wants yeah.
Okay, come on, take. It's not quite what
Is it the same person? Are you doing the same thing?
What? Somebody got something else? You have? Oh, you have. Come here. You're not quite there. You know what? You have not dig deeper. If you dig deeper, you find it. Yes, you didn't dig deeper.
Okay.
So you're just and it's for your
Bye.
We were talking about everything NYSC controls on the land. Later on,
Maxwell. Jump.
Leadership
Yeah.
has to be in order to go up. That in the kind of scenario that we have now, can we have a leader that will sacrifice his or her life for us to go?
might sentence him to maybe 20 years. We have someone that at least stole like 10 billion. You just ask him or her to pay 1 million, some percentage, and go along with the rest. How can we eliminate or exit this corruption as you say that it's possible? In the aspects of EFCC, is it possible for the EFCC or ICPC to be independent in discharging their duty? For instance, there is a quote in English that don't bite the hand that feeds you.
So it can't be.
For instance, their money is being paid by executives, which is government. How will you expect the ICPC to be independent in carrying out their duty and competition? The last one.
He was listening, yes.
In Nigeria, to have a strong institution. For instance, judicial system, there was the last time that we had the DSS paraded the judges, and they found a lot of which are not money. And this judicial system, at least we rely on them as our last hope for the masses. But see what they saw in the judicial arena. How can we, is it possible to have this strong institution that we are clamoring for? Because we don't have this strong, how can we fight corruption? The head is corrupted. Even though the bottom is also corrupted.
Last question.
Last question, please. My name is Father. I want to comment and ask a question. The first comment is like the speakers have also said, what are the parts to play? We live in a generation where youth ourselves, we don't want to work, but we want to job for us.
Yeah.
This is the sincere truth. We work in an office where the person working the most look like the one most like every other person that is lazy. Everybody wants to do eye service. When the guys are done, that's really when we want to work. And we are all youth. We live in a system where our parents are equally not having issues. And that is the truth. You want a child who just came out of school to start planning for the family without job. Young ones now no longer coming out from school, don't want to go back to their parents' house with the consciousness of, I can't stay with my father anymore. They have to think of something they want to do. And nothing is out there. Sometimes they end up missing the wrong friends because of parents' pressure. Now my question is, I think they asked one of the question now. I want to ask, when the man from ICPC, the commissioner was speaking, said it took billions of naira to prosecute of dollar. And I think they were able to prosecute him because he was not in the confines of this country. If he was here, I'm very sure he would go scot free with all of those things he did.
They had before.
Because he has the money to throw around. Now, the sincere truth I want us to ask ourselves is there going to be any way? Because we want to teach our children the truth. Because obviously, we cannot get it right in this generation. That is what it means.
You can.
We can, okay, we get it right. Now, we want our children to get it right in their own time. The question is, are we making effort on our own to get it right now?
I'm asking you.
Because
I think there's an effort.
about just concluded election. And sincerely, there are a lot of things we want to talk about. But we are independent, we cannot talk about it because who are you? Who are you to talk about this wrong? You see them, they are over, they are going to the war. You hear of the money, people coming to vote, they are giving money before they vote. In fact, they even show interest that I want money. You want me to vote for your party. That is because before the person is going to stand in the office, he or she is going to get nothing from there. So when will they collect the money? And that is how bad it has gone. We're coming and the road from, I just started the palace, the road is completely bad. Terribly bad. And if you go back to the books and you check, you discover that road has been commissioned comfortable with where we are, provided everyone has his own corpus in the pocket.
1 minute.
Now, my question, what is the way forward?
Okay.
Since we cannot get it right on time, because even the law is not helping. You still want $1 million, you pay 500,000 as your fine. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma.
Okay.
It's his way of expressing himself.
Go straight to the point. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. It shows you've been listening. So I think you should clap for yourselves. Yeah. Let me start with the last question. The education system needs an overhauling. And the overhauling can only be done by somebody that knows the difference. People that know how it is done elsewhere and it has worked. You know, in the UK, for instance, somebody finishes like SS3, the person gets a job. They have very strong institutions they have not given up hope. Those institutions are so, they are firmly entrenched. I gave an example just of recent now, that a big man went to the front of the counter, and everybody turned the other way, showing that we will not accept this. Where is this bush person coming from? They say it's the highest insult to give anybody, and the man learned the hard way. Now for education, we've had different systems of education. You remember the 6-3-3-4 system? But we are so impatient. How many people, I don't know how many of you here did primary 6?
I did primary 6.
I did primary 6. My children did primary 6. Okay, I didn't do primary 6. Sorry. I didn't do primary 6, but my children had to do primary 6 because I felt the influence, the effect of not doing primary 6. By 1975, I was in a secondary school. I was 10 then. But after a while, I realized that I missed something. And I was determined, when I even went to do a postgraduate diploma in education, that, look, the fact that people have tested this system, there's a need for primary 6. People must do primary 6. I have a school now. Parents don't want to do primary 6. They want, if it's possible, a child should go from primary 4 to secondary school. Because you are running away from what you think is the cost of primaries 5 and 6. Then you pay a huge cost later. It's like building a house. You don't do a good foundation. You finish the house, and then you have a structural crack. And then you begin to run helter-skelter. I can easily get this Ankara if this one tears. I'll go and look for the material and join it. A house is not like that. That is how a child is. So for education, there are technical schools. Not all children must go through university. You see that mindset that we all must go to university, we must get rid of it. In fact, from the questions you are asking, the accountant that asked earlier, you've done this, you've done yes, that's your profession, but you can have multiple streams of and multiple sources of income. While you are waiting for them to call you for interview, you said you have gone into farming or something like that. There are so many things you can do. You can even organize yourselves with your friends, start a very good lesson for those, those subjects. You can teach economics, can't you? Organize certain things. There's nothing wrong with. See, teaching is a noble profession. Nobody wants to be a teacher. Until you have nothing else to do, then you beg to apply. And then if we give you a job, today you don't come to school, you have gone for interview. Immediately you get a job, you dump everything. See, we have to learn to delay certain things. We have to be very patient to go through this. So for the skills, if you have friends or younger ones that you see that they can't cope, if they do jam 7 times, they can't cope, let them go to these things. Learn those skills. The professor will build a house. We need a very good bricklayer. We need somebody that understands, that is very good at carpentry, and then he will be at the mercy of that person. You understand what I'm saying? Learn those skills. But we are incorporating it. The STEAM education, entrepreneurship. You know that in elementary school we have introduced all those vocational entrepreneurship education. We tell children, you must have a piggy bank. Polo, you know what polo is? Have a notebook. Somebody put a date. Somebody gave you money, put the person's name, the amount, who took it. If it is your mommy that took it, write her name there. Ask her, when is she going to pay you back? You're laughing.
And children will take that.
See, parents have had to call me that I've caused a wahala. That somebody gave them, and the child has been harassing them. My money, I have so. Daddy took this one, mommy took that one. How do you teach children accountability? These are the ways you will teach them. And when they do chores, even abroad in universities, they will not hire cleaners. There are students that will queue to do some jobs and they are paid. It's only in Nigeria. Students will serve. They will have 50 cents change. They have big cars. You don't want to do anything but go to class lectures when you want to. You come there, when the lecturer says something, you whistle, you do whatever you like. You don't even want to work, and you're spending big money. And when it's text time, you buy tire for lecturer. Say, I think your tire is bad. You buy to bribe. Things like that. we don't value anything. I hope I have been able to say something concerning that. And then you said, we don't have strong institutions. We have said it. You can start building one. He has said in his home, you start. Start building those things. Let your children know that no is no. Even if the person, people say everybody has got a price. And I ask, do you have a price? You must learn to see, no matter what it is, if you can't beat them, you don't have to join them. You stay apart from them. They will make fun of you, they will laugh at you. One day they'll come and meet you and say, you've been able to do this, how have you been managing? They'll come back to you because everything has a result. There's an advantage, there's a disadvantage. If you do the wrong thing, I tell you, you might think you get away with it, you will not get away with it. And the earlier we begin to build those institutions, begin to say no when we should say no. Okay, they have collected 20,000 and voted. They will suffer for years. If they collect 1 million and do this thing, anything you do now, you think you have eaten just like Esau. That is what is happening. But one person standing alone might be tough. But if you see somebody, iron sharpens iron, before you know it, have you watched the ants? Even when there's a flood of water, what do? They join together. And then the water carries them together. Nobody is missing. But we look at nature and just think God doesn't have sense. He has plenty sense. So we should begin to do little things. Your little one, do your little one. It will go a long way.
Thank you.
I don't know what I think there are very few questions that we addressed to my topic, and most of them were comments. But there was one important question that somebody asked that is it possible for the law enforcement institution to be independent to fight corruption? Because you cannot fight the finger that fed you. Somebody said that.
Yes, yes.
You know, the first name that actually came with was Independent Corruption Commission. So it was meant to be independent. Even the FPC too was meant to be. In fact, they are independent. You don't even have to spell it out before you know that the intentment of the draftsman, those who drafted the law, is for those who want to remain independent so that they can function and achieve the goal for which they were set up. But you know, when I was giving my speech, I made reference to the CPI definition of corruption, and there were three highlighted: grand corruption, petty corruption, and political corruption. That is where the problem comes. How many of you have been following the Brett Kavanaugh hearings? Now the matter has been delayed for 1 week. You know, this judge that wants to go to the Supreme Court. 1 week. For the FBI to, carry out its own investigations. Everybody knows that the FBI is an independent organization. You follow the history, particularly in the context of the court, because I've done a lot of study on them. But the fear of most of the world now is that if you are not careful, that zone is going to be compromised. Not only have they tried to compromise them by saying, you can't look into this, so don't talk to this, don't talk to that. What is the way now that you are curtailing the independence? That is not that is America for you, that everybody needs to look up. You can see that whoever is the leader there, give the coloration of the government. Was it like this under Obama? Everybody's praying. By the time this man finishes, this same corruption that we are saying, that you talk about factory mode. Yes. America is out of its factory mode. Factory setting. Factory setting. They call it mode. Maybe they can jump start it back to their factory setting again. But this one, let all of us wait and see what. Law enforcement institutions are meant to be independent in carrying out their investigations. So, there's very little law can do, but you can. Political corruption, the people there will dictate how, except those who have the fear of God and do the right thing. So the second question was, is there any way we can make efforts to get it right? I thought that was what I spoke about. Then you talk about money changing hands, people selling their cars. What is the reason behind it? Poverty.
And it's like a vicious circle. Poverty goes round. What causes poverty? Isn't it corruption? If they hadn't stolen all the money, there'd be more equality in this society and people won't have to be selling there. Have you ever heard of vote buy in America? In Britain. They won't buy vote there because people there know their rights. They know, you know, that's more of a equitable society. So because people are hungry here, people say, a bowl of rice, they don't. The poverty, so a vicious circle. That is what is important. Until then, inequality continues, and the root cause is corruption. We will get there. We are ambitious. Thank you, Ralph.
We can appreciate everyone for what we have done here today. And I want to believe that we have something. But my brother accountant, where is he? Who asked the last question? Okay. Well, let me just say this as something I went through as well when I finished my service. I just got an hint from somebody. For the first 4 years after my service, I was doing a volunteering job. I was volunteering. You know, when I started, I started with one particular NGO. That NGO linked me with another one. Eventually, I got myself linked with the European Union NGO. I was still volunteering even with the EU. But I discovered that in the process of volunteering, we were asked to do some tasks in states, which Osun was part of them. The money I made after the task, there will be no salary for you as a volunteer. But if you have a task to carry out and you make each sums there, you are going to be a good. I'm telling you, by the time I got married, I had enough money for myself to get married. And I wasn't working. It was just volunteering job. You develop yourself, your CV will also get richer. If somebody suddenly see on your CV, volunteer job with the European Union for 4 years, they'll be like, really? 4 years? So when eventually all these electoral bodies, you know, all of them, when they come around from Tanzania, somebody will just remember you and call you and say, bro, I think because of the experience you are fit to be in this one. Someone would, you know, suddenly remember you one day. I'll tell you something. People hardly look for jobs around the way they used to be in those days again. We have all talked about our population getting on a high side every now and then, especially when you see those very poor people. They have 6 children, and the husband is an Okada rider. The wife is selling pepper, and they have 6 kids. But in our days, the fact that you went to school and all of that, just give it a shot. Go online. You will see those organizations. You will see their volunteering spots there. Just click it. Tell them you want to apply. Those things. It works a lot. Thank you.
Did you hear what the MC said? That he volunteered. I want to remind you that is the volunteer work that Obama did after I left Harvard that got him into the Senate, and I made him the first, and if you are not careful, he will be the only black president we ever have in the U.S. Volunteer work, going from, your own is even more on a higher plane. Obama was on grassroots. He was going from door to door, volunteering, trying to sensitize people, and that got him to where he is today. Please, listen to that. You can see, so that you too get it.
Ms. Diane. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to toe your line. I have been in development for a long time. I served. After service, what gave me my first job then was 15,000 naira. I don't know how many of you are paid here. Paid. It was because of the experience I had in the camp. The first place I worked was an NGO, and I was the one that started it without no experience. But because of the paid education I did, gave me that. And from then, I've been in development for a long time. A lot of people come to my organization, I'm looking for a job. What qualification do you have? You don't have no qualification. You're a fresh graduate. Okay, I will offer you a volunteering position in my organization. You won't see them. That's the last you will see them. That's the last you will see them, sincerely. Yes. You see, you know, the idea of volunteerism is not that common with the blacks. But I tell you, outside there is a place, is something that when you do, it gives you a springboard. I came with my staff She has been volunteering for how many years?
7 years.
7 years. So when she came, she was going after me, I need a job. I said, okay, because I've known her in the development world, in the development field. She didn't do no interview, and I gave her the job because now she's performing. Because she volunteered. I never read anything pertaining to science, arts or what. I did pure geology, but today my colleagues are in the oil rigs. But today, I can boldly stand, I am an employer of labor. I volunteered. So, my office is open. If you want to volunteer, come. I will give you opportunity to work. The experience you have, there are some series of, there are a lot of university students that came to our organization. How many of them were there?
9.
9 of them. Public health. For 1 month. We drilled them. We gave them a lot. I told them, it's good that you came when the organization had projects to run. On your own, come. During vacation, just come. By the time you graduate and you present in your CV that while you were a student, you have volunteered and this is what I want, it gives you an edge to your colleagues. And most of them took that and they are coming. So youth of nowadays, they don't want to work. They want white-collar job. There's nothing there. I'm very serious. There's nothing there. When she came to my office, when I see young persons like this, because I knew when I was working too, when I was serving, I go to offices like that to carry out my primary. So when I see them like that, I give them a chance. So I was encouraged. I said, okay, no matter what, I will come. So it's enough of white-collar job. The accountants. I am looking for an auditor, an external auditor in my organization. Come, we'll give you. But we won't pay you, but the experience you will get, it will give you an edge by the time you graduate, by the time you pass out. So Ma, thank you very much for whoever, thank you, thank your group. If our leaders have failed us, they have failed this generation. So if you're thinking what law are not, the laws are there. Nigeria have very good laws, but the implementation is zero. So if the implementation is zero, implement it yourself by starting, do something with your own hands, not something illegal. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Ayeni for that contribution. And I want to, just like I mentioned, I advise you, wherever state you come from, there are so many development organizations you can work with. I met some ladies recently during the election. They came with the woman with Ward C, Dr. Abiola, the director of Ward C. So those ladies are just volunteering with her. And imagine the fact that they will travel down to Osun State to come and oversee the election. In that kind of volunteering, you get something. You get money. You may not be getting a regular salary like every other person. You know, in Nigeria, the way it is now, you only need O level to be a governor or a president. But if you want to get a 50,000 hour job, you need 2-1. And express of 5 years. 50K job. See your life outside. So, thank you so much. Let me bring in Tope Lawal to come and appreciate our guests.
Good afternoon, everybody. I said this when I went to almost everybody's office, that in the next 20 to 30 years, we are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. They will be hood. Simple. We will be the one controlling everything. And what foundation do we want to lay down for the children coming behind us? Because that's what matters. If the foundation is not solid, the building will fall, it will collapse. So we, the youth, are the future of tomorrow. And our future has started today. Today is the future. And whatever we do now will make a difference tomorrow. So, on that note, on behalf of all members of NYSC scheme and members of ACG, Anti-Corruption Group, I would like to sincerely appreciate the Commissioner of Empowerment and Youth Engagement, Mrs. Mofoleke Adetun Adegboyega, for your support and your soul-lifting speech. I would also like to appreciate Professor Okorodudu Fubara, Mrs. Professor of Law, OAU. Mommy, thank you for coming. Really appreciate you. I would also like to appreciate the state coordinator, Mr. Emmanuel Atta, ably represented by Mrs. Oluwabukola Abiodun, Assistant Director, Deployment and Relocation. Please, can you clap for them? Thank you. Commissioner ICPC, Mr. Baba Alaru Swipe, Kimpat Community Advancement Initiative for self-reliance, for their support, Adonis Quality Life, Community Development, Advancement Initiative for Self-Reliance, the Chairman of Osogbo Local Government, Honorable Adegoke Oluwasegun, Ministry of Women, Children and Social Affairs, represented by Mr. Rahim Ajani, the Office of the NSCD, represented by Mr. Tajuddin Odeyemi, Foyekem International School. I worked there when I first got to Osogbo. Thank you very much for coming. Even though the notice was very short, we appreciate you guys. The members of the press, OSBC, RAVE, and the editorial CDS. Thank you very much, guys. You really made today happen. Also to our anchor, the man who said I don't talk, and I talk a lot, Mr. Deji Adefila and Ayo Aina. Also to all core members here, students, all members of ACG that participated in my hair schools. Thank you very much, guys, for running around, sleepless nights, planning. Thank you. On behalf of every member of NYSC, I once again thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Mazan.
Okay, thank you so very much. That's going to be the show for you. I want to believe that you've had a beautiful time. And I saw Nylon Bar passing by the other time too. Okay, so the mouths will be busy very, very soon. Thank you so much. Thank you, Prof, for coming. We appreciate you all. Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. Thank you, Madam. God bless you all. Have a beautiful time.
Please, may we rise and to take the NYSC anthem and bring forward to God. The NYSC anthem, please. After the count of 2. 1, 2, sing. Youths obey the clarion call. Let us lift our nation high under the sun of liberty. This dedication of selflessness, Nigeria's heart of Jesus.
You will look like you are in a cage, like cell. Ó ti ń bọ̀, kámẹ́rà ti dé o. Wọ́n ti gbàgbé, wọ́n ń ṣe ọmọ Nàìjíríà. Ká stop by.